All right, so welcome to the DJ Rhett podcast. With me today, I have Mr. Darrin Guidry, who's running for Parish President for Terrebonne Parish. Thank you so much for taking the time with us today.
And thank you so much for having me.
No, not a problem. Hey, look, I know a lot of people are in the race right now. I don't know. I lost count on my little fingers here, how many people are in the race. But I think that's a really good thing for Terrebonne Parish. That means people care. I just wanted to give an opportunity for everybody to come on the podcast and, find out a little bit something about the candidates that they don't see on a regular basis. When we see y'all on TV or we see y'all on the advertisements, we just see, politician, but I want to know like the nitty gritty. I want to know the candidates. I want to know if they like crawfish, if they like the potato salad on the side. I want to know stuff like that. But also I like to know about the person and the issues and stuff that they have at hand. So tell me a little bit about Mr. Guidry, where he came from, and the floor is yours to introduce yourself to everyone.
Yeah, well, my name is Darrin Guidry. I'm a lifelong Republican conservative. Born and raised in the little town of Patterson, Louisiana. Graduated from Central Catholic High School in Morgan City. So, of course, I lived way out in Patterson. And
that's a Berwick kind of Morgan City, Patterson. They got a nice golf course out there, Chapel, so it's nice.
But my friends at high school, of course, never came and played at my house because I lived way out in Patterson. Mm-hmm. So I understand what it's when I walk the Bayou communities and they feel like, they're kind of left out. I get that, I experienced that most of my life. And of course, right when I graduated from school, I moved to Houma to work, married a South Terrebonne girl, and the rest is history, I guess.
Once you come down to Bayou, bro, with those Bayou girls, you don't leave, man.
That's it.
There's some most beautiful. I call them the Southern Belles, man. It's something about these little Louisiana gals that you can't get away from. But so you moved there to Terrebonne Parish?
Yeah, so I've lived in Terrebonne Parish almost all of my life. My wife is from Berg. My in-laws are from Dularge. We have relatives in Chauvin. So we kind of touch all the Bayou communities. And, of course, if I'm fortunate enough to become parish president and don't take care of a certain Bayou communities, my phone's going to ring, not only by constituents, but my family as well.
Right. So your family is typically where my family's from. So we kind of seen like the storms and all the other stuff that's happened around here. You guys know firsthand what it's like. And ironically, we're doing this on the second year of the anniversary of Ida, which hit us. I mean, I don't know what you were doing 2 years ago, but I was making TikToks in the weather. I didn't realize it was going to be that bad. So, but
well, I was spending the night at the Emergency Operations Center, mm-hmm. and fielding phone calls and chasing down issues and trying to resolve, gas systems that, people couldn't run their generators because the gas system was having issues. And so we were trying to plug leaks in gas systems and get everybody up and going and try to get our, electric wires cleared from the road so it wouldn't be so dangerous. So yeah, it was a very, very busy time 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's kind of not my my first rodeo because, when I moved to Terrebonne Parish, I came here, I think, in 1989. I know I'm dating myself.
No, that's all right. Let's see, 89, I was 12. So I'm gonna do myself. Let's see, I think I was at Oaklawn. I was in 7th grade or something like that, or 6th grade at Village East. So yeah.
But I was hired by this big broadcast firm called Guarantee Broadcasting out of Baton Rouge to come take over this radio station they had just acquired called KCIL 107.5.
Oh yeah, country music. I remember that way back. Well, I think it still is country music, or I don't know what it is.
Well, yeah, actually, when I took over the station, it was a top 40 radio station. They called it, mm-hmm. Hot 107.
Hot 107.
And so we did a market analysis, and there was a big hole in the market for country radio. And so, we did some research, and of course, KCIL is a legacy call sign, so we weren't going to change the call letters.
Right.
But we took the C in KCIL, and we wanted to create an image and a logo that people could relate to. And at the time, and I think it still is, Coca-Cola was a brand of the South.
Mhm.
You know, based in Atlanta, everybody kind of felt like Coca-Cola was, you know, part of their heritage. So we created a C similar to the Coca-Cola C without any trademark infringements.
Yeah.
And we became C107. And that was the birth of that station. And I stayed at KCIL through Hurricane Andrew, since we're talking about hurricanes.
About
And I
92,
remember
huh?
this in 92, exactly.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I remember distinctly because KCIL had a generator at its tower, but had no generator at its studio. So when they said that Hurricane Andrew was going to cross and get into the Gulf Monday morning, I started at 7 a.m. Monday morning calling generator companies. By 9 a.m., I got the very last generator Welsh had to rent. It was an 85 kW, could power the whole block.
Yeah.
And our studios were behind Terrebonne General Medical Center. And so I had my electrician hooking it up into our electric box and creating a double throw. And people were driving by, you know, because Belanger Street there is a busy road. And they'll say, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, we're hooking this up for the hurricane." And they're like, "Oh, that storm's not coming here." And I kind of felt like, I guess, maybe what Noah felt when he was building the ark and people would say the flood's not coming. But we went ahead and we were prepared. And as a result, you know, KCIL stayed on the air before, during, and after the storm. The only station in Terrebonne, Lafourche, and St. Mary to be on the air giving out information. So I was very proud of the accomplishment, you know, of my team, but it took a lot of leadership.
Yeah. Well, I didn't realize that you were part of that, actually, because I mean, I remember listening to KCI. I actually have old VCR tapes of Andrew, that storm, of my whole family. Like, my whole family's from Chauvin and the Cocodrie area. So they think, yeah, you know, we lived in Presque Isle right there. So we were the highest part. So they're like, "Hey, y'all come to Houma." Yeah, that's practically North Chauvin, you know. So so they thought it would be safe to stay over there. But I have some old videos and of us listening to KCI, because that was the only, it was the old transistor radio that we, you know, the little boom box we called it back in the 90s. And I distinctly remember, like, who was it? It was John. They had a personality on there, Dr. Don Thomas and
Dr. Don, Jenny Childs,
Mo Lewis, I think his name was.
Oh yeah, Mo Lewis. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember all of that. That's sort of my childhood. I grew up listening to those stations, you know. And you guys used to have a game on there called the Slick Sam's Video Vid Bid, and I used to call in because I knew all the movies. And I used to go pick up free tickets to Slick Sam's. And they would tell me, "Rhett, you can't win no more. You got to let somebody else win." So, but I remember that stuff. And I'm gonna have to send you a copy of those videos to hear the old voices on there, because I remember my mama saying, "Oh my God, there's water in Lumcom. They just said it on the radio. There's water in Lumcom." So, but I remember that stuff, and I had no clue. That's why I like talking to people like this. I had no clue you had any part of that. So.
Well, we had a lot of people calling us, and they would say, "Look, you know, I have relatives in Bayou Blue. We're not hearing anybody calling from Bayou Blue. If you're in Bayou Blue, can you call?" And then we would have somebody who would call, maybe on a cell phone, we would get a signal, and they said, "Look, the phones are down in Bayou Blue." And so it really, I mean, it helped us stay connected as a community. But one interesting tidbit is we got a phone call from CBS Radio, and they said, you know, "Can we get a feed of your coverage?" And so our AM radio station used to have a program called Swap Shop where you could buy and sell stuff. So we had it, you know, we could easily pipe it through the phone line. So, and our AM and FM were simulcast because of the storm. So on the AM side, we took the phone off the hook and we fed it, you know, fed the coverage. Well, I guess about 3 or 4 hours went by, and I'm like, well, I guess CBS got whatever they needed. So we hung up the phone. The phone rang right away. It was CBS. I said, "Well, okay, I thought y'all were, you know, got what y'all needed, a few sound bites." They said, "No, everybody in the New York studio is gathered around listening to your coverage of Hurricane Andrew. We feel like we're part of the storm. This is the best radio we've ever heard," they said. And so, you know, that was kind of, you know, I was very proud to be a part of that.
Right, right. And I mean, it's very important down here. I mean, knowing 2 years ago, just communication, knowing that this cell phone right here, when you don't have it, it's like you don't realize how addicting this is until a storm comes and takes it away from you. And then you're like, you have no form of communication. Then I don't know where, I don't know particularly where you guys were at, but we had no running water over here for like 11 days, I think. So just not having running water is like, oh man, like then you really start looking at things like, man, I take that for granted to turn, this bottle of water I had for you to talk to in the studio today. I mean,
Yeah.
that is a precious thing when you don't have running water. So it kind of puts everything in perspective, especially 2 years now, looking at it back retrospect, looking at everything. And, my heart goes out to the people in Florida that's getting ready to deal with this monster that's getting ready to come. We dodged another bullet, of course, but it seems like these storms are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's crazy. Andrew, we were talking about that. I think it hit Florida as a 5, and then it hit us as maybe a 2, a strong 2, but still, I mean, our levees and our marshland and everything down in Terrebonne Parish is it's very vital to, well, our economics. It's very vital to our way of life, tourism, and it's also one of our line of defenses against these monster storms. So I guess that's going to lead me into my next question. You're running for parish president. What's going to be, name maybe your top 3, ideas, or I don't want to say problems. I just want to say issues, or maybe, stuff that you want to tackle as you pursue the presidency of Terrebonne Parish.
Well, of course, we have a lot we need to do in Terrebonne Parish, but I remember James Carville, who was one of the advisors of Bill Clinton, kind of, summed up, where the root of success is. And when he said it's the economy, stupid, we have to rebuild our economy. And to do that, we need to fix our infrastructure. If we're trying to get businesses to locate and they drive here and they see garbage all over the place, or grass and roads that are barely drivable, it's going to be very hard to rebuild our economy. So we're going to have to rebuild our infrastructure. And the third thing is we have to lower our cost of doing business and our cost of living. And that includes dealing with insurance rates. You mentioned the hurricane hitting in Florida. And I know some people are like, ooh, thank God it's not hitting Louisiana, because we need our insurance rates to go down. Well, what people don't realize is these insurance companies go based on storms that hit the continental United States. So if we could go 3 years without a major storm causing major devastation, that lowers your rates. Well, right now we've had a storm from Laura, Ida, and I forget what the name of the storm is that hit in the Florida area last year, and now another Florida.
Ian, I think it was.
Ian. But, these storms are going to make a lot of pressure on our wind and hail insurance. So what we're going to have to do is, as parish president, I'm going to have to work together with Archie Chasson Lafouche, Matt Jewell, who's the parish president in St. Charles, and whoever gets elected in St. Mary Parish. We're all going to have to work together, and we're going to have to make sure that the legislature deals with this in April. We're much louder as a banding together. We have insurance company right now in Louisiana that want to write, but say, I'm not going to write south of the intercoastal. Well, that does no good for the people who live in the intercoastal. That just means that other places in Louisiana's cost of living go down and ours goes extremely high. We all have to share on that cost of living, that cost of insurance. We share the fact that in North Louisiana, a home is so far away from a fire station. That is much higher exposure for fire damage. But, they average out the cost of fire and casualty insurance with South Louisiana and North Louisiana to come up with a ratio. Well, guess what? We're much closer to fire stations in South Louisiana, but we're higher. We're closer to winds of hurricanes. So we need to come up with an average. We need to average that. And as far as our wind and hail, we need to work together with our neighboring states to come up with a plan. If we don't work together as states, I don't think the federal government is going to solve wind and hail. Look what they're doing with flood insurance.
Flood insurance.
So,
I just got my new premium in the mail, and it doubled. And they're going to continue to double it until it maximizes to, I think, 35 or 3,800. And it was $400 for the longest time. And I think that's because understandably, they're taking a big old hit when everybody's making these claims. But it's almost like you got to weigh out your options. It's like, okay, do I pay it, or is it worth it? And then when you don't have it, it was worth it, and when you have it, it's like it's not worth it. And so that's where a lot of people in Louisiana, especially down here in the Bayou parishes, they kind of teeter-tottering because everything's expensive right now. So it's like you gotta weigh out that grocery bag of responsibilities, and and every little break in insurance would help. So I always tell my little girls, y'all better get those straight A's, because $5 off the price of insurance helps out a lot. So, but yeah, that's great. I'm glad you're looking at the cost of insurance, because that's on a lot of people's minds. Also down to buy infrastructure. So.
And how about, the new flood maps? Of course, the council approved FEMA's demand that we approve their flood maps. I was the only councilman who voted no. And I did so because I think we need to fight FEMA. The fight is not over. Mm-hmm. I intend to, day one, work with LSU to try to come up with a surge model that shows our levees in place. And then we need to petition FEMA to lower some of its elevations. I don't know if you know this, but some of the elevations right where you are in Berg went from 6-foot elevation to 10. That's right. 60% increase in the elevation. Mm-hmm. Now, are we at 60% higher risk of flooding? I don't think so. We've always been at a risk of flooding. So these elevations are arbitrary. The FEMA does not recognize our levees. They recognize Lafourche. They recognize St. Mary. This is a Terrebonne Parish only problem. Mm-hmm. So we're going to have to tackle it as Terrebonne Parish. And that's going to come from the lead of the parish president. I voted no because I thought we should fight it without the maps being in place, while we had TV cameras pointed at us, right?
Right.
I felt like we had a lot more leverage over FEMA. They opened up a public comment period that started October 1st of 2021 is when they opened their comment period. You remember what happened in 2021? Mm-hmm. Hurricane Ida.
Yeah.
So we were under a state of emergency, and they had a comment period for public comment. Yeah. I wish we wouldn't have accepted the maps, and we would have asked FEMA to reopen public comment period, because we were under a state of emergency for much of that time. So how are you as a resident? You didn't even know there was a comment period going on. Mm-hmm. You might have made a comment about the fact that your home has never, ever flooded. Your property has never even flooded, not even on the grounds, but yet you're being required to go 60% up.
Exactly. I see what you're saying, voting against it, because I think FEMA, they don't understand, I guess, the geography and the whole aspect of Louisiana. Especially with some of the lower lying parishes that do have levee systems. They just think that, okay, a storm comes, it's destruction, and boom, that's it. But water, in the insurance eyes, water damage is way different than wind and hail damage. And that, I think that's where a lot of people are fighting, and then a lot of these insurance companies, well, a tree fell in your house, water fell in, that's flood. Well, no, these crazy conversations that go on back and forth. Now, I understand insurances are going to try to they're in the business of making money. So, why shovel out money left and right? And I understand these adjusters and everything, but one of the questions that I have, and maybe you can answer this too, is when I did my policy, the adjuster came out and they said, okay, you have X amount of damage, but your deductible is off the value of your house. Like it's like your policy is $400,000. So your hurricane deductible is 5%. So you got to pay the first 50 grand or whatever it is. And well, wait a minute, you only paid me $100,000 to fix my house. Why don't pay the 2% deductible or the 5% deductible on that amount, not the whole policy? Like these things are, it just blows my mind the way these things work. Now, I don't never really, and I'm probably like everybody else, I don't really look at policy until I actually need it, and you just, oh, I got insurance, it's cool and dandy, but you got to read that fine print. And I think going through these storms, we're going to learn a lot more. It's going to expose a lot more things. And for me, it did, one thing, and you could probably take this with you, with the council, especially too. When the storm hit, we had a lot of people just come in, and I mean, I understand communication was down and everything was crazy, but we had like out of town roofers coming in, just, I mean, taking advantage of, and I was watching it just in my neighborhood, taking advantage of people. And I mean, what are you going to do? Your roofs are caving in, the water's coming in. Hey man, I'll jump on your roof and do this for $1 a square foot. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Then you get a $10,000 bill and you're fighting it. And these people are out of town, blah, 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 blah. I pitched this idea. Maybe y'all can take it some kind of way, but just have like a perimeter set up, even working with Tim Saunier and them guys who I believe are some of the best cops I'm talking the state. I mean, they got their stuff together. Maybe work with them guys to set up a perimeter and have people actually certified or verified to come in for, a disaster relief deal. Like you can't just let any Joe Blow in here, but I know that's kind of crazy to ask for because a lot of these cops are saving people that, they can't really set up a perimeter, but just food for thought, when you're thinking about stuff like that. A lot of the people that lived through the hurricane, they never experienced something like that. I never did. The biggest hurricane I ever experienced was Andrew, maybe, when I stayed, because I left for Gustav, because Gustav was kind of bad, but I left. I didn't experience it. But man, Ida, that was a whole different ball of wax. So I think we learned from it. And I think, people like Lake Charles, they learned from it too. So I think when these storms come, we're going to be better prepared, especially taking pictures or whatever, because I don't think anybody knew what to do, but to know how to survive those first 2 weeks. That was it, So
well, one of the vows I make to you and to the residents of Terrebonne Parish is, as parish president, I will never close the parish. Mm-hmm. So if you want to evacuate, please evacuate. You can come back to the parish. We'll let you in. You take the risks. But everybody should know that they have the capabilities of coming back right after the storm to secure their property. And then hopefully they assess the situation.
A week we could not get back in for Gustav. And so we were out of we were wait, we got to get in. We got parents that are in there. And I understood, times were different and we learned from these things. But yeah, I'm glad you'll say that. Don't close.
Well, people told me after Gustav, my constituents said, I'm never evacuating again.
That's why we stayed for Ida, because I'm like, if this is bad, I'm not going to be able to get back in. And I want to be able to protect what I got, because.
Well, I'm telling you now, I'm telling you now, save your life, protect your family. Don't worry about your properties. You could come right back after and take care of it. And so I want people to be safe in Terrebonne Parish. And so if they know I'm committed to not closing the parish, I'm hoping that people will go ahead and take the step and evacuate. I evacuate my family. Mm-hmm. I was the only one who stayed. And I stayed because I could spend the night in the emergency operations center. Mm-hmm. Other than that, I know there's a lot of people who stayed and still say they're going to stay, but I really wish people would just err on the side of caution because you just never know what's going to happen.
Man, look, I stayed and and I'm a couillon. I'll probably stay again, just because I'm like, if I stayed in that one and survived, I probably could survive anything. But you're right, because I mean, when that storm came in, the way the wind was blowing, I mean, my neighbor was catching hell, so I was like, all right, this is great. He's going to get all the damage. And then when that thing turned from Thibodaux and went toward, toward New Orleans and Destrehan and all of that, the wind shifted and it was coming straight on the front of my house, and I can see the front doors buckling. And I mean, I got my kids, my in-laws in here, and I'm like, man, if this thing pops open, you know, the roof can fly right off the top of the house. And I mean, so I went outside and I was like, what? Like, I've never seen anything. It was like Dorothy, like, you know, the Wizard of Oz, stuff was flying everywhere. I've never seen anything like that before. And had to go get a piece of wood and drill the door completely shut and slam the sofa up against it. And I'm like, man, I'm never ever doing this again. But you want to protect your property, and you know, stuff like that. It's like, man, if I leave and I can't come back in for a week, you know what kind of science project I'm going to have inside my house growing in there if I can't get to it?
Like I tell people, surviving the storm is really not the issue. I mean, we had very little loss of life in Ida. The problem is surviving after the storm. So if you've got your entire family here, now you're trying to figure out, you know, how, if your generator doesn't work because the natural gas lines are all uprooted, you know, you have no power. You're trying to take care of your family. You're trying to get water. You're trying to keep them safe. You know, if you cut your leg while trying to cut trees with your chainsaw, then the hospitals are shut down. You never know. I tell people surviving the storm is that's the easy part.
Right.
Surviving after the storm becomes the hard part. You know?
Right. And look, I'm currently going through Leadership Terrebonne, and last week we visited. We visited Terrebonne General Health Systems. I keep saying I'm going to say that to the day that I die, but they changed it because it truly is a system. You know, I mean, it's one of the best that we have in actually the state. And they said for the hurricane, I mean, they were dealing with COVID patients and the hurricane. You know, and they had nothing, and they were trying to evacuate people, and you know, it was a mess. So you never realize the importance of, you know, we really have good infrastructure as far as businesses. We have local places where people can go do their chemotherapy in Mary Beth Perkins. We got you know, Terrebonne General. We have CIS. You know, I mean, you got to have that around here with all the good food that we have to eat. So, but you really do have that. And you touched on the storm, and you touched on ways that you do that. Can you kind of elaborate and talk on what would you do as far as like the education system here, working hand in hand with Terrebonne Parish Education School Board? Because I'm in the mid. I have a girl that's going to South Terrebonne right now, and as you know, South Terrebonne has been dormant for two years. It looks, as a parent, it looks like nothing's been happening on it. Now we do have the portables in there, which, to be honest, it was better than what the buildings were before. South Terrebonne was built in 1961. Like, come on, you know. But I'm just wondering if you know, all these projects, the Berg Bridge. South Terrebonne High School, Ellender. I know FEMA has the big hand in all of this, and we have to walk by FEMA's shoes and everything. But how are you going to get involved as parish president to kind of move these projects along?
Well, you mentioned a few projects there, and you know, first of all, you have to identify who is ultimately responsible and how you're going to work with those people. You mentioned the school system. Of course, the school board is set up by the state of Louisiana, sets up how school boards operate. They get their own funding. They have their own taxing districts. So the Terrebonne Parish government does not have any oversight over the school board or the schools. So we can tell people what our constituents are saying. We can work in cooperative endeavor agreements with the schools, and we will. And right now, we work together with the schools to provide school resource officers within the city limits of Houma with our HPD. We'll continue to do that. That's part of our active shooter plan that we came up with. And we just did this recently. We want to see school resource officers in every one of the schools. That's where we could work together with the schools. You know, we do work together with the schools and some recreation departments that have recreation facilities on school board property. We utilize school board property for other things in cooperative endeavor agreement, but the schools themselves, all we can do is provide support as far as being open if the school board needs any help from us, but pretty much the school board has their system in place to rebuild the schools through FEMA. Now, you mentioned the Berg Bridge, which is a state project. And I know a lot of our roads that are horrible are state highways. And a lot of parish politicians they tell you, oh, that's a state problem. That's a state problem. And they feel like, they've satisfied that. I don't take that as a solution. I'm not going to tell the people at Terrebonne Parish, yeah, if you go in front of the airport, in front of Clendenning Road, and you lose your bottom end of your automobile, oh, it's the state's problem. No, it's Terrebonne Parish's problem. So I'm going to work very closely together with the state to make sure that we get the funds to repair our roads. I did it in my district with Highway 311. 311 was in deplorable condition, but I worked together with Representative Zarang. I worked together with my constituents, and we were able to identify funds that we were able to move in order to repair Highway 311. Now it's in great shape. We could do the same thing with our other roads. I attend some of the Police Jury Association of Louisiana conferences. This is where I get a chance to meet with legislators in other parishes. And they come to me all the time and they say, y'all get y'all unfair share of levy and pump money, and we're angry about that. And I was like, oh, wait. Have you seen our roads? There's always a give and take. If we get a lot of money for levies, then guess what? Other communities may get more money for their roads. And so we're going to have we're going to take our flood and levee protection, and rather than going at it as a sprint, we're going to go at it as a marathon. We'll always be repairing and improving our flood protection, but we have to concentrate on our infrastructure. We have to concentrate on our roads. We have to concentrate on our lateral ditches that get the water to the pumps. We have to cut our grass on public highways. So we're going to concentrate on the infrastructure in Terrebonne Parish. Our government buildings. We're going to concentrate on cleaning up our parish. We have a lot of blight. I would like to create a position in the parish called Community Development Director. And I want to have somebody who's in charge of every one of these projects that we do to think about how can they better the development of Terrebonne. Give you an example. We built a bridge on Polk Street over Little Bayou Black.
Right.
I know Parish President Dove gets a lot of hassle because it's right near his house. And they say he built
this
this big
water slide. It's not the bridge. That pretty water slide.
That beautiful swimming pool. But this beautiful bridge, I guess you could kind of blame me for that beautiful bridge, because the previous bridge kind of looked like a DOTD bridge. You would have an off-ramp off of an interstate, it was all concrete, ugly. Well, of course, the underneath, the pylons were all rotted. And so the bridge was about to be condemned, and it's one of our highest traffic bridges. So through the state bridge replacement project, we were going to replace the bridge. Well, I went to President Dove and said, look, is it possible to make it look not like an off-ramp of an interstate? And, Guidry said, go talk to the engineer. It was Milford Engineers, a local firm. Go tell him what you want, see how much it costs. So I took a picture of the Church Street Bridge downtown. I took a picture of the Roussel Street Bridge downtown. I brought it to Gene, and I said, can we build something similar to this? So he ran the numbers. He called me. He said, Darren, I could do it for the same price. He said, concrete's very expensive, and we're doing here with the iron and the different, he says, we could do it for the same price. Well, let's do it.
Yeah.
And so as a result, the Polk Street Bridge looks so nice that the Hollywood Road Bridge that we're building over Big Bayou Black is going to look the same. Why not make all of our bridges look nice?
Right.
Now,
it almost, you change the if you change the atmosphere and make everything look nice, people just get nicer. You know what I'm saying? It's a psychology thing, Oh,
no doubt about it. And it helps build, I think, a pride in community, which I know a lot of, some of the people running for this office blame a lot of our voters for the litter. Like, oh, they're horrible. People just don't care. Well, people do care. we just got to give them a little pride. And I think we can do that if they see we're serious enough about cleaning up our community. Now, let's talk about litter. Litter has to be approached from 3 different angles. The first starts with communications. I don't know if your family wore seatbelts when you were young, but I remember when I was young, we never wore seatbelts.
Right.
And they came out with the cars where it started, it would beep if you weren't buckled.
Mm-hmm.
So, everybody used to buckle it up behind you and just kind of leave it buckled. So that way that dang beeping didn't happen.
Right.
We just never thought seatbelts were important, but there was a strong education effort, communications about seatbelts save lives, seatbelts save lives. With the general public were educated. Now we don't go anywhere without wearing seatbelts. We need to educate people. If you put garbage in the back of your pickup truck, it's going to end up on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So we need a huge if people start thinking top of mind about litter, then they're going to notice when other people litter and they're going to report them, which we need to make it easy for them to report people who do litter. And then we have to have enforcement. So you have education, you have enforcement, and then of course the third thing is abatement, sending prisoners out or sending our crews out to go pick up litter. Right now, all we have is abatement. All we're doing is going to pick up litter. And the next day, more litter's there. Without the education piece and the enforcement piece, we'll never solve the litter problem. So we're going to do all 3. In fact, we're going to have a strong communications department in the parish you're going to know if we're approving a FEMA map, the general public's going to know everything there is about that map before we approve it. Rather than after the fact, people are going, well, what did the council approve? How does that affect me? That discussion should have happened months and months ago.
Right.
We're going to have a communication department that does that. We're going to have a very open government, and we're going to let the people know, because you know what? I trust the people. And Ronald Reagan, I think, was called the great communicator.
Mm-hmm.
And that when I registered to vote, that's why I registered Republican, because I liked the way Ronald Reagan's policies worked. Reagan took it directly to the people. He didn't go to Congress and try to fight and have to give up all kind of a pork barrel projects to get what he wanted. He went to the people and said, this is what we need. And I intend to do the same thing, to let the people know what's going on in government and let them decide. I think that's the best way to do it.
That's old-fashioned way of doing things. I think we've gotten away from that. I think we let just little small things grow into big things and let it control. I try to tell my little girls like that too. Have a metal frame pool. I don't have that nice one that Dove has, but I got the metal frame pool. And I said, look, you see how calm that water is? And I said, if you grab it and you push like this, look, see how the water gets all ruffled? That's letting outside forces interfere with your life. Don't be that ruffled to somebody. Everybody's got to have their peace and everything. But I do think that just everything is talked up so much. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody has social media. Everybody knows everything about everything. Everybody's a genius. Everybody's a professional at what they don't do, but they judge everybody else. There was a time 2 years ago. Well, actually, yeah, it was right after the storm where I was like you. I was like everybody else. I couldn't stand the trash anymore. So I went on the side of the road. And I did it. I lost it, a little bit, because I was a social media influencer too. So I was like, let me take my anger out here and see if I can make a difference. So went on the side of the road right there on Prospect by the bridge, right across from where the old, it was Winn-Dixie. That's what it was. Winn-Dixie, right there. The little bridge Prospect, right there, the Prospect Bridge. Kind of went clean up right there. I said, look, 15 minutes, watch this. Took a picture. Then I took it off, went clean it, took another picture, 15 minutes, just one section. I said, look what happens when you bring a weed eater and a bucket. 15 minutes, one person can make a difference. So I challenged everybody. I called it the 5-gallon bucket challenge. I mean, we got 5-gallon buckets over here. So I kind of did the math. I said, man, couple of years ago, they did that, what was it, the ALS ice bucket challenge where they dumped ice on their head. I said, same premise, but just take that same 5-gallon bucket and fill it up with trash. Video yourself go and empty it, and then say, okay, I nominate 3 people to go pick up some trash. And that's what I did. Well, it kind of went a little viral in our area a little bit. Chick-fil-A did it. Texas Roadhouse did it. They shut down work and they let their employees go pick up trash for 15 minutes. And I mean, it just, when you see people do that, it makes you want to get out and do that. So I want to see that from all the candidates, you know, like, don't just come run for the position. And if you don't get it, okay, well, you know, bye-bye. I want to see all these people really involved, and whoever is going to become the next parish president, we need all these people. We need all these different flavors, because I like to see the passion, because if you get passion behind the people, I'm telling you, it's going to be, Houma's going to get spit shined in a good way. I don't know if you've gone see, did you see the new plaza downtown with the lights on?
I have not been there. I've just, you know, of course, seen posts on Facebook, and I've seen it in the daytime, but I haven't seen it at night.
At night they got it all lit up, and I mean, people are going to take, you know, senior pictures and stuff there. They're going to take wedding pictures.
Awesome.
I mean, and I would have never thought, you know, anybody would want to take their pictures downtown Houma, you know, because it needed a facelift, and you know, with the bandstand there, and everybody starting to, you know, pick up everything from Ida. And I know Ida was our monster. It was, you know, it was the storm of a lifetime that we got. And it's just nice to see people getting back on their feet. Nice to see everything scrubbed back up. And I just want everybody that's running for Terrebonne Parish, no matter what it is, you know, when it's all said and done, smoke clears, and whoever's settled, whoever is the parish president, I want everybody to work together. So hopefully we can continue to do that. So.
No doubt about it. And you talking about cleaning up litter. I've been walking neighborhoods now for 11 weeks, knocking on doors. In fact, I walked in your neighborhood. You weren't home. But we bring a big garbage bag. And as we're walking the streets, we're picking up the garbage that we see. And we fill up a huge garbage bag every day that we go, just from, you know, garbage that's just, you know, flattened cans on the road or whatever it may be.
And I like to believe the residents of Terrebonne Parish just don't throw stuff out the window. I mean, I get it. People put stuff behind their cars and stuff, or, you know, maybe they open up the door and there's a receipt in the thing and the wind blows it out or whatever like that. You know, it's accidental litter. A lot of it is. But I mean, if we can find ways, like you said, just educate the public, like, hey man, just throw your trash out. Don't throw it in the back of the car. Throw it in here. Also, initiatives on social media, like the 5-gallon bucket challenge, that gets people involved. Hey, I did it, you know, and then, you know, I did it, and you challenge other people to do it. I just think it brings some sort of, it makes it fun, you know, not just I'm going to pick up trash on the side of the road, you know, it makes it a community involvement thing.
You know, you mentioned downtown. You know, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, downtown will never come back." It's you know, it's really sad. However, you know, we have some incentives downtown, being an historic district, that we don't have anywhere else, that I think will help us. And I don't want to say the storm. There's a bright side to Ida, and that is the incentive is a tax abatement program, to where if you buy an old building, and that building has an assessed value, and you put a couple of $1 million into that building, repairing it, fixing it up, making it nice, for 10 years, you can pay the property tax as though it's just that old building not fixed up. That's an incentive.
That's big.
But a lot of people kind of would say, gee, it costs so much money to redo an old building. It's cheaper for me to build new construction. And so they didn't see that tax incentive as being that great. But guess what? As a result of the storm, some of the old buildings downtown were torn down. They're now vacant property, and they're assessed now as vacant property. Now we can get that person who has $3 million and they want to build something on Martin Luther King or wherever, build downtown, put retail at the bottom, put office buildings, and put in apartments. You could spend $3 million, and for 10 years, you pay the property taxes though it's vacant land. Now that becomes a big incentive to build downtown.
Right.
You know, and so
And
we're
I think
hoping
that's big. Like I think all of these things, like, see, I don't know about these things, and I think more transparency to the public where they understand, because when you going into an election, you know, you go into a booth and you have all this, okay, millage, all this jargon we don't understand. You call your mama, hey, what you vote yes on that.
Exactly.
Okay, like that's how we do it. You know, I think social media, and that's what I like about Archie Chasson. He gets on social media and hey, this is what we're doing today. This is what we're doing today. I would love to see the new parish president do that. You know, doesn't have to be every day, but I mean, once a week, get on social media, say, hey guys, weather's this is the projects we're working on. You got any questions? Send them over to me. You know, I love that transparency with parish presidents.
I guarantee you that'll be part of a Darren Guidry administration. I mean, I come with a communication background.
Mm-hmm.
It only makes sense. In April, the city of Houma power went down because of a major line break. There was nothing, crickets coming out of the Terrebonne Parish government. I, as a councilman, had to sit in front of a computer and call our utilities director, what's the update, and texting people, because people were texting me going, how long is it going to be out? Do I need to get a hotel room tonight? Do I need to hook my generator up? You know, give us some ideas. And nothing. So I spent 3 or 4 hours just sitting in front of a computer doing that. That needs to be the job of administration. We need to be putting out regular updates. And as a councilman, all I do is share links to the parish updates. That is a whole lot easier than 9 different council people. And then do we get it wrong? Are we trying to get the right information and are 9 different council people getting given conflicting information? We got to have a communication department that starts at the top that gives information. So we are going to be very open. We're going to have a strong communications with with the constituents, and you're not going to have to worry about that. I've seen it firsthand, and I see the need. This is part of the reason I'm running. You know, I'm not term limited. I could run for re-election to the council. But I see these little things like I'm telling you, and I just can't not care. I mean, I want to sit down. You know, some of those people can walk by a piece of garbage and, they don't care in the world. I can't not care. I got to pick up the garbage. And so when I see issues that I think need to be solved in parish government, I can't not care. And so I told my wife I made a conscious decision that, you know, I did not want to be a councilman under another parish president again, that I want to be part of the solution. One of the reasons I ran for council, I don't know if you knew this, I didn't, but my background after radio is in the newspaper business. I launched a newspaper called the Tri-Parish Times and a monthly called the Gumbo Entertainment Guide.
Gumbo, yeah.
So we covered in the Tri-Parish Times all the problems in government. So when I sold the paper in 2014, I knew all the problems. I wanted to be part of the solution. And that's why I ran for council. Fast forward 8 years later, I see the problems now that people don't see, the problems that are going on behind the scenes. I want to be part of that solution. That's why I'm running for parish president.
That's awesome. Well, look, I want to thank you for, taking the time with me. I appreciate it. I'm giving this opportunity to all the candidates. I think it's important that everybody gets to know them on a different type of level. Right. When you see them you see candidates on TV, you might get nervous to approach them or anything like that. No, we got some really nice people, some really good people in Terrebonne Parish. We all want to see it strive. We all want to see it succeed. And I appreciate you taking the time with me, Mr. Guidry, and good luck with everything, man. And if there's anything I could do for you, let me know.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate this opportunity.
Not a problem. And we'll see y'all next time on the DJ Rhett podcast.